So we do have a quorum, and the next item on our is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thanks, Ms. Gleaton. A second?
A second.
All right, Mr. Burgess seconds. All in favor, can we just do a show of hands? Or aye?
Aye.
Aye. We're gonna take that as a yes, and we adopt the agenda. And we'll move next to hearing from the Midlands Transit Riders Association. And I see Walter, are you reporting to us today, Walter?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Durst? Okay, we'll go right ahead.
Okay, well, the only thing we have is that we're very excited about the additional benches and shelters that are going to be going up soon. And also, as Pam pointed out to me today, that the commercials that we did last year for the Comet, that they've already started posting stills from that. And so the word is getting out about the Comet, which is really good. I told Pam my autographs will be available in the lobby, but because I saw yesterday when I was down at the transit station that the big screen is showing the pictures inside the transit station. Also, I was very heartened about the, in the back of the transit station in the parking lot where they are having the COVID shots and tests, that the line for tests was very long, and I was really glad about that. So that's really about all I've got, but I think things are moving very well, and I'm very happy that things are going well.
Thank you, Walter. And I would just comment that I noticed on a post from Charles that about the CAP meeting, that's the Carolinas Association for Passenger Trains.
Yeah.
And I know he's been tracking on that closely. And I believe their annual meeting is to be in Columbia on this Saturday, January the 15th.
That's right.
Pam, if I haven't sent that to you, I'll try to send that to you, or you can check on the Midlands Transit Riders Association Facebook, just to get that word out to the Comet staff and to the board, because I think people who haven't had any contact with that organization would be very interested in the kind of work that they've been doing over time and are still doing in terms of promoting passenger rail service for this area. And most of them a lot of them are retired, but they've all had long experience in rail transportation. And so that would just be an opportunity for people to tune into what they are doing and how it might fit into some of our agenda at the Comet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So if that's,
Wait a minute, Ms. Gleaton has something.
yes.
I would just like to back on, I have noticed people that's down there doing the COVID thing for the Comet, they're doing an excellent job. I've noticed at the times that I come through there. So we can just give those people a really big hand, because they have really been doing a good job and getting the people in there and getting them out, from what I've noticed and seen through there. All right.
Thank you, Ms. Gleaton. And I do appreciate your emphasizing that, because I think the kind of contribution that the Comet's making by making tests and vaccinations available at the transit center is significant, and I really appreciate that. So thank you.
And also just to say, Lil, for them being out in the cold.
Right. I mean, working in a tent. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Wish we had better accommodations than that. Okay. So we'll move on now then to the adoption of the minutes for November 10th. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Burgess. Is a second? I'll second that. And Juliet, would you call the roll on adoption of the minutes?
Brennan. John Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Gleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Mood,
Yes. All right, that takes care of that. Thank you. The minutes are adopted. And we'll move to item 5 and 5A, the passenger amenities program. And I believe I saw that Mr. McGee's with us today. So go ahead, Zach.
Yes, good afternoon. We provided both the December report and the January report for this meeting. And the biggest highlights I have would be that in November, we received 5 encroachment reports or encroachment permits from DOT. And then in December, there were 11 benches or 11 shelters installed and 1 bench installed. And there's also still 8 sites that are in progress at this time. Some of those were from the encroachment permits that were just received in November. Those were a little behind the other installations. Those are the main highlights I have. If there's any questions on these 2 reports, I'll take those.
Okay. I had 2 things. One is that I noticed that the installation at Forest Acres is still pending, and one thing just awaiting, it said just 1 month it said awaiting approval from Forest Acres, and another month it said some unresolved issues. Can you update us on that?
I don't think anything has changed. It's just awaiting, say DOT was trying to get some input from Forest Acres.
Okay,
Before providing the approval on that permit.
and I'm gonna make a note to myself for us to just check with Andy Smith, who's on the board and is in the Forest Acres government, to just see if he can help us figure out what the delay is there. So Pam, I might need some prompting on that, but that's my plan.
We can provide a contact at DOT that is working on the permit if that would.
Good,
Helpful.
good. That will help. And then the other thing that I thought of is that, at the last board meeting, there was a discussion about the removing the amenities at the corner of it's Elmwood and Main. And I'm not sure of the status of that. Can anyone, Pam, you or someone else from the comment staff, tell us what has happened with that since the board meeting?
Oh, they have been removed.
They've already been removed.
That's correct. Mhm.
Okay, so that didn't have to involve Zach. Okay. All right. Thanks, Mr. Fergus. I appreciate that. Anybody else have questions for Mr. McGee? All right, then we thank you for that report.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to 5B on the transit operations report. Mr. Cooksey, Mr. Smith.
Yes, Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank
We'll jump right in. I'm going to start out with our third slide, or our third sheet here, which is the COVID-19 vaccination. I left this slide in just to kind of give us a reference of where we were coming into our current situation. So that kind of paints the picture. We always felt strongly that we were here over 80%, and and I'm going to circle back around as to why I left that in to kind of verify that information. So we go to the next slide where it says Omicron/Delta. So as of the 6th, what this report is showing is the percentage of positive cases that we've had as of that day. Late December, first week in January were pretty rough time period, not just for us, but for everyone. And I wanted to show, based on where we thought we were coming into this and kind of what was happening, actually happening on the ground. and really where are the pain points? You know, what is the impact if it, say, for example, our maintenance department, okay, we're reporting 15%, you know, at what percentage would we need to hit in order for it to impact our service in that area? And so this was a way for me to look at it and manage it just to know where the pain points were. So as of the 6th, we were looking at these different areas. And what we've discovered, or what I discovered, is really in our paratransit area, you know, the 12% positive rate really was at a pain point. When I say pain point, where we're challenged with making sure that we get the routes covered, or the runs covered, the work covered rather. And what we've also discovered with this particular variant is not only is it just the operators, that's our focus here in getting out, but it's also because it's our most vulnerable clientele, it's the number of passengers that are positive. So currently, in how it's set up is our buses are, you know, we can go to capacity on these cutaway buses. So, you know, we have to look at it in both ways, operator and number of, you know, customers that are actually also positive as well. And here we have them in this environment where we're not spaced properly. And in talking with TCS and talking to our leader there, and of course talking to the comment, you know, we really need to look at reducing that particular service as far as ridership to 50% on the bus at a time, just so we're allowed to get the spacing, because we're putting everyone together. And you know, with this particular variant, we know what it's causing across the country, and it's pretty challenging. And in mentioning that, just to show you how fast this thing is moving and how quickly the numbers move, I took a look at the numbers last night, okay, as far as percentage of our workforce that's currently positive, right? So on the 6th, you see these numbers, 15, 10, 12, and 10. So as of last night at 5:00 p.m., we had 0% maintenance positive, 0% as far as our administrative positive. Our fixed route was at 6.75%, so we're actually down from the 10%. And then our paratransit, which was at a high of 12%, currently as of last night, is 2.4%. So what we're seeing is this yo-yoing of this situation. So yes, today it's manageable, but as we're speaking now, these cases could be coming in, and we're bouncing up and down. And so I just wanted to kind of point that out of where we were just in 1 week's time period of just the swing from one side to the other.
And can I ask you something, Mr. Cooksey?
Yes.
With the percentages, can you translate those percentages into actual numbers of staff to give us that perspective too?
I can. I'll need to be able to provide you that after this meeting, if that's possible.
Okay.
I can flip that and give you the number of staff. For example, on the fixed route, I was looking at that one earlier. We're looking at about 13 people total.
You mean at the 6.75? That's about 13.
6.75, yes. And the others obviously no one in maintenance administration. And then on our paratransit, there may be one, and then one in quarantine right now. But I can actually provide the actual number, you know.
I think that would be a nice supplement to just to give us those two ways of looking at the impact that you're describing. And do we have any way of determining how many of the people who become infected are among that 80% vaccinated? Because you know, we're really putting a lot of effort into trying to protect as many people as possible. And I'm really very aware that this Omicron variant doesn't keep people from being infected entirely. It seems to be just to mediate the severity of the illness. But so I'd be interested if you have any data that tells you how many of our infected staff have been fully vaccinated, and also if you could just speak to the severity of the illness they've experienced.
Yeah, so right now, what's been reported back to me is we haven't had anyone hospitalized. They all seem to be mild cases at this point. Now, I have been attempting to obtain that very data that you're asking for. I don't have it of how many, were vaccinated but still managed to, contract the virus. We know I don't have a good number yet, but we know that has happened. It's just been reported spottedly. Yes, I was vaccinated, but I still got the Omicron variant. So we know that happens. I don't have a number, but I'll work on that. A lot of this is a manual process on getting this information and going to people. So it's not as quick as I can, click on any software that's managing it. We're having to manage it, I guess the old grassroots way by hand. But I can work on getting those numbers for you.
Well, and my interest really is I believe the fuller the picture is that we have, the better able we are to say where do we need to put our efforts in terms of protection, and that's really my interest in that. I'm glad to hear that we have not had to have anybody hospitalized, and that what they're experiencing as of now is mild illness, and really in support of what you're saying about the sort of yo-yo numbers is, it seems like just one day I was looking at the data for the state, which showed that about 30% of the infections were of the Omicron variant, and virtually the next day it was 72% of, so it's been just an astonishing surge from that particular variant, and I think that's what we're feeling, and our best efforts are to, of course, to mediate that in any way we can, and right now mask wearing is beyond the people who have gotten vaccinated, and with people getting infected, even if they are vaccinated, that it makes it even more important that the mask wearing even more important.
Yeah, it does, and with confidence, I can say, as we've been collecting data, as we continue to position ourselves here, we are at 85%. We can say that with 100% certainty. With that number increasing, because we do have operators who have not been vaccinated are also now moving forward to do so. So that number will only get up. So if you go from where we were in November, and then you look at that number to where we are today, it's been a substantial increase in the vaccinations. If it weren't for the efforts of the comment and the efforts that we're putting in with our staffing and our hiring and our education, I'd be telling you a different story now. I'd be saying we're not covering any routes, where we're struggling, but we're not. We're managing to get it done because of all those three things that have been put in place as we still continue to drive towards 100%. We may not get there with this particular variant. Fortunately for us, it's fast moving. Mm-hmm. It allows us to, there isn't the long layover, the long times out before you can come back. So that does give us a little bit of wiggle room in managing it on people coming in and out and covering and being safe and making sure that we're safe and actually still continuing to run the service during this very difficult time. So I did want to mention that one of the things there's several things that we've done. Of course, we're constantly, doing our cleaning of the buses, but we've also, what I've done is reduce the number of seating capacity in our driver's lounge area to also not promote people gathering. We also we have a pool table here. I've closed the pool table as well. We're always enforcing our mask wearing, obviously in the building, in the facilities, on the buses, social distancing and, trying to avoid any large gatherings. And we've also requested additional fogging of our facility here, which the comment has accommodated in that area. So we are taking all the steps necessary to stay as safe as we possibly can during this time as we try to manage this.
Well, I'm sure I echo the feelings of the rest of the committee in terms of being appreciative of the intensity of the efforts that you're making to keep both our staff and our riders safe, and we thank you for that. Does anyone else in the meeting have questions or comments to Mr.
Yes,
Cooksey on this topic?
yes, Madam
Mr.
Chair, I would
Yes.
like for him to go back to if there's anything we can do to mitigate that ridership, the crowd on the bus. He kind of mentioned
He
that.
did mention that. Yes.
Yes, so I did touch base on that in reference to our paratransit. We have a meeting later today to further discuss what that'll look like. I can tell you when I managed the paratransit service in both Louisiana and Baton Rouge and Savannah, Baton Rouge at the height of the early Delta, you know, we never went to full capacity on our paratransit vehicles, even through today. But here we're doing that. So, you know, and that's just to protect the clientele on board and the operator, so we can have them to actually perform the service. So that's something that seriously needs to happen just for the safety, even if it's not long term. You know, we need to probably look at where we are now and say, okay, 60 days, we need to do this and then reevaluate the capacity issue. Then you bump it up. You go from 50, 75 to 100. You never go from, you know, 0 to 100, which is what was happening in the past. So, but
So
as far
Mr.
as fixed
Cooksey,
route, yeah.
so well, let me ask you, well, go ahead, finish, because
Yeah,
that.
no, I was saying as far as fixed route, you're already down ridership. You know, if you compare it to, you know, previous years and numbers. So you already have the spacing on the bus where you don't need to reduce, in my opinion, you don't need to reduce any seating there because you're already at a reduction. And you have a lot more space to work with. As we're paratransit, it's much tighter, it's a much vulnerable population.
Well, and that was my thought too, that the riders on the paratransit are more vulnerable.
Yes.
And so is what you're proposing something that you can go ahead and manage just yourself and working with the subcontractor, and you don't need any action from the committee or board, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is our wheelhouse. We can definitely manage this. Dennis Franklin, the manager on that side, is well aware, has a plan, and it's a good plan. It's a plan that I have used in the past in the para world in this area. So we don't need additional assistance. I mean, we can manage it.
Good.
And manage it well.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask a question. This is Skip Jenkins.
Yes, Mr. Jenkins.
I wanted to ask him, are he allowing face shields instead of masks and stuff? But you have some issues going on now. People want to just wear face shields and not a mask. Face shields, I don't think is safe enough, because you got you go around the face shield and everything is hitting and bouncing back. Can he elaborate on that? How is he doing that? With just mask only, or is he allowing face shields with no mask?
Yeah, so that hasn't bubbled up to me in reference to that being an issue, or operators reporting back, that's an issue. I do agree with you. The safest is the face mask, and if you can double mask or type of mask is definitely the direction we want to go in. The face shield hasn't bubbled up to be an issue, and when I'm out in the public as well, looking, I don't see that many people using that face shield that are riding the service. But I agree that the face mask is shown to be the most effective way for you to stay safe.
Okay, thank you very much.
I thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Jenkins, because it does just help clarify that our policy is really mask wearing, not shield wearing. And Mr. Cooks is exactly right that I was listening last night to the talk about what type mask, because what you're looking for is the best seal that you can get all the way around both your nose and mouth, not things that would allow open areas for the virus to enter. So,
exactly.
Thank you.
Yes,
Madam Chair,
Madam Chairman.
may I chime in a little bit on this?
Yes, please.
Okay, so to further answer that question, we're under the authority of the FTA regular mask wearing, and a face shield is not conducive to being admitted on public transportation. You do have to have a mask, a real mask. If it's cloth, it has to be double layered. Unless it's an N95 or the blue masks. We do not allow gaithers, and that information is actually on the signage on the buses, that you have to have a bona fide mask.
Good.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
that's good. That just reinforces what we've said, and that's good. Yes.
Madam
Someone
Chairman, can I ask you a question? This is
Absolutely.
Mike Green.
Sure, mine.
The thing that concerns me a little bit is if we reduce the ridership, I mean, these are the most vulnerable people who have to get somewhere. They have to get to a doctor, and if they miss a doctor's appointment, it could be 3 months before they, are able to get another doctor's appointment. So if we reduce the ridership, is it going to affect? I mean, is it going to affect them, not being able to get on the bus?
All right. Unless I'm misunderstanding, Mike, the reducing ridership didn't mean turning away people who need rides. It just means offering more vehicles so that there are fewer riders per vehicle. Is that right, Mr. Cook?
Right, but are we able to offer more vehicles?
Yeah, well, that's correct. It's a 50% capacity.
Yes.
And we're, offering, all life-sustaining trips, obviously would be first on that, medically necessary trips. We'll have specific days that we'll focus on, for shopping days. So what we're doing is we're reducing the capacity on board, but we're shifting the schedules around to accommodate everyone. So everyone can still get to the doctor's appointments, get to the things they need to do. We're just reducing the amount of people on board at one time. And that'll take some creative scheduling from our dispatch team, who's well prepared and skilled to do that, because it is something that it's being done throughout paratransit, making these adjustments.
Okay, does that help with your
there
question,
could
Mike?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, there still could be some times where we're basically going to have to ration some of the service to these people. I mean, because we only have a limited number of buses, and if we go at half capacity, and they're already, and everyone on the bus is already wearing a mask, and there's not much more we can do other than reducing the capacity. I think is what you're saying.
Well, and if I would just say that I think the board would expect Mr. Cooksey to alert us if he finds that the demand is so great that they're having difficulty meeting riders' needs to get to particularly medical appointments on time. But what I'm hearing now is that we're not at that point yet.
Right, and I just want him to keep an eye on that. Because I think that this is the most crucial service that we provide for people in order to, these are the main people who have to get somewhere, and they have no other ability to get anywhere other than us. And it's already, I've heard from other people that it's very hard to schedule, and it's very difficult to do everything on the paratransit that we already do. So this is going to add another wrinkle to it for us.
Right.
But that's just my thoughts. Thanks.
No, good thoughts. We obviously would be in lockstep with the comment, on this particular situation. And that's why I'm proposing this isn't a long-term situation. We got to manage our way out of this Omicron. And people wearing the mask, obviously it's shown that, just last week there were 20 clients that tested positive for COVID. So that alone, that alarming number of the passengers who are in paratransit requires us to make the necessary adjustment during this period to make sure we keep people safe. And we have
those people that tested positive, were positive, they were wearing a mask on the bus, right?
Well, that's correct.
They're required to wear a mask.
Right, but we've shown wearing a mask isn't, that's just one of a variety of different steps you can take to stay safe.
Yeah.
And even though they may have been wearing a mask, this particular variant seems to be, even if people claim they wear a mask all the time at all times, they still manage to come up with this particular issue.
Well, no 100% guarantee. I
Not
see
100%.
Mr. Franklin's hand. To Mr. Franklin, you had something to ask or contribute? No.
You may be on mute.
Oh, you are on mute, Mr. Franklin. Now.
Can you hear
Tell him
me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. You know, we do support the mask wearing at all times. Right now we have 27 passengers that have tested positive, but just to let you know that doing the contact tracing, that has one of my drivers out on a involuntary quarantine due to the contact they had with that person that tested positive. So there's a lot of different variants and stuff, but Lenny and I, we've done this before. It doesn't put people out. We're basically trying to do is we have to adjust everybody's scheduled time just so that we can make sure they get to where they need to go. But it's all we're trying to do is just to limit the number of passengers on the bus, and that's pretty much just the basic of it. But we're not going to be, we won't have any more or less refusals than we currently have due to that fact. So we're still maintaining everything we need to do and still transporting the passengers. And we're also looking at a overflow option as well so that we can feed a different type of service as well to help us out.
Okay. Thank you very much for that additional information, Mr. Franklin. That's reassuring. So are we ready to let Mr. Cooksey proceed with his report? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cooksey.
Okay, and moving over to our customer service, we have, there was a decrease from, in the month of December, so which was a good thing. We always like to see that number come down as far as our complaints or, that come in. Unfortunately, on the reverse side of that, we did see an increase in our safety category. And, at one time we're really down below double digits. So we'll have to continue to watch that and look at, what was the driver of that? Because we were definitely heading in the right direction for a couple of months. And we only had one preventable accident for the month of December, which is a good number. So it doesn't quite correlate to these number of complaints in that area. However, it's always something that we were looking at very closely is on the safety side of the house. So I did want to just mention that, I'll be obviously watching that spike and we'll work to drive that number down.
And I know that that's a collection of a variety of complaints that get categorized as safety. Do you have a sense of what's predominant in terms of when people make a complaint that gets classified as a safety complaint, what they are telling us?
Yeah, for the particular month of December, I don't have that data. I can request that and provide that data. But previously, it's been, we had some situations of sudden stops, where the operator may have to brake quickly. Someone may cut in front of him. It's possible that the operator wasn't using the correct following distance, so they had to brake a little bit more abrasively than normally if you had the proper following distance. Those were some of the things previously before December that we had been addressing. I don't have all the data in to break it down for the month of December, but that's what I had seen previously.
But we expect the type of complaint to be probably similar.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Historically, that has been the case.
Okay. All right.
In that area.
All right. Unless somebody has a question, please go ahead.
What I did this go around is on the next slide, it says friendliness review. What I wanted to show was, what is the perception of how are we treating our customers? That's so critical in our ridership growth, where everyone, it's so competitive right now. and it was going to be competitive for the foreseeable future. So, you know, what is the best way to win ridership back? Well, one, you got to be efficient with your timing. And, you know, but you have to have clean buses, but you have to treat people well. You have to treat people with, you know, respect and dignity and empathy. So I wanted to look at some of these reviews in reference, or not reviews, complaints in reference to, you know, are we friendly? Are we rude? Are we not helping people? You know, what does the public say? Now, I can say the number, compared to where I've been previously, the number of complaints here are low in that area overall. If you look at the number of trips that we're taking per month, and then you look at how many actual complaints that someone's calling in saying that we're rude or not friendly, it barely even registers. But the issue is, it's still a perception thing. It may register low, but it's very important to our growth, right? So I went back and pulled as much data as I could find, in going back to April through current. And as you noticed, I wanted to see what was valid complaint, and then we were able to verify that through video, and what was not. And if you noticed, I added in, like for example, this month of December, we had 5 complaints that came in. So three of those were not valid, and 2 were. So we're seeing down the middle. I went back and kind of ran some numbers. It looks like we're roughly about 61% of the complaints were not valid if we go back through April. So about 40% are. And I only bring that up just so we can get a more perspective of when someone will come in and say, well, the so-and-so, you know, they don't treat people well, or there's a customer service issue, that one, we can look into it deeper, but it really brings in perspective of, the real question is, why are people actually making the comment, a false claim that someone is rude or treated them well, when you pull the video to confirm it, the time, the date, and you're looking right at it, that never happened, or that wasn't the case. I mean, that's a deeper question. We can't answer that here, but it is a serious, but it's not just here, it's everywhere. And it could be a sign of the times or what we're going through, just people's frustrations or how they feel about things. But I wanted to do a deeper dive on this. I like my one slide of things that we can look at, just so you can see the valid versus the invalid. And I highlighted the August because I'd started mid-August, really in September, kind of getting rolling. And I wanted to look at, you know, are some of the efforts that we're putting in place, like our coaching, mentoring, you know, are those things working to kind of drive down just our valid versus, you know, invalid complaints. And so we're going to continue to work on that. Me looking at this, I've got some ideas of some customer-centric training that I'd like to do, just to get this down to where nothing is valid, down to 0. You know, people are always going to call and complain. So, you know, or give a compliment, because we're going to talk about that as well. But our goal is to get to 0, and this kind of gives me an idea of some type of training that I have in mind to kind of bring to the group. So I wanted to share that with you, because if we go into the next slide, I added something that I haven't done previously, and that's our outstanding customer service. And I won't read the whole thing, but I wanted to just highlight these individuals, because it's not often we get people to call in and compliment us. And I think we need to start talking about the good things we do, because we do a lot of good things, and we got a lot of good drivers who care and do the right thing. But the first person, her name is Mary Scott, and when the complaint came in, one of the things that she was complimented on was really her uniform, how well her uniform looked. The person was having a problem with their mask, so apparently they were having some issues putting their mask up, or something was going on with their mask, so that the operator was very patient, allowed them time to adjust their mask. They were having issues with their fare, you know, also being very patient, allowing them to get their fare put in, not rushing them through. So this person called in and felt like, hey, you know, this person was just very kind, and we just need more kindness in the world today. And so she was recognized. We put up a new a safety board downstairs on the main floor, and we recognize this operator. We have that, you know, that up on our board. We, you know, we've commended her because that's the kind of service we want to offer people. The second one, Kevin Settles. This one's very interesting. So Kevin, apparently a passenger got on the bus and the passenger was sick. This was back in December. So the driver, fortunately, we had a trash can on board, and the person must have regurgitated into the trash can. But Mr. Settles, seeing this, he stopped by, and we don't promote this, but in this case, he stopped by the Waffle House, which was on the route, and he went in and got some gloves and towels and Clorox, and he went through the whole process of cleaning the bus, cleaning the area, making sure that the person was okay, that they were going to be able to continue, did they need additional medical assistance. And the passengers were just, the person was just so impressed with that someone just took the time to care about his health and how he was doing. And the operator made that decision, you know what, I need to do something more. And he did it. And, you know, we commended him as well. So he doesn't like any publicity or anything like that, but we, you know, want to tell him we thank him. And, you know, that's a compliment that came in. And as these come in, I'll report them out because they're very important for us to know we do a lot of great things here at the Common.
Well, Mr. Cooksey, I hope you'll express to these that these two have been recognized, our appreciation to them for the kind of service that they're providing, because they not only is the impact they have on the passengers that they contact, but they become an example for the rest of the staff. And I hope that you'll express our appreciation.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely will do that. And moving on to...
Yes, Miss, wait a minute, Miss Gleaton, I think I hear.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to piggyback on that. We have some excellent drivers that drive those buses. I'm not all the time riding different buses. They're very courteous. I've seen them help people get on, especially some senior citizens. So we have to really give them a good clap because they're doing a very good job out there. And I know sometimes it's stressful. People get on with attitudes and stuff like that, but they are always so kind in respecting them. And I just want to let you know that we got some good drivers out there, some very respectable people out there that's doing our service on the Common. Thank you.
Well, and I thank you for that firsthand observation, Ms. Gleaton. Thank you.
Okay,
okay, Mr. Cooksey, back to you.
All right, thank you, and I'll definitely let them know. And that's, again, both fixed and paratransit. They both do an excellent job with our customers. Moving on to our preventive maintenance. I know it seems like it's...
Madam Chairman? Madam Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yes.
I've called into the comment several times, and there seems to be a very long wait to get to talk to someone if you don't know where you're going, you know, and if you want to talk with someone about a schedule or something along those lines. And I think that the vast majority of, I mean, I would say the vast majority of the people, you know, some of them might need to call in. And if we can just look into that situation, just to make, I mean, to do a call in and see how it works, to make sure that they're getting the best, you know, information on their routes and stuff, and they're not waiting like 15 to 20 minutes to see where a route is or where something or, you know, a time is.
Okay,
again,
and Mr. Cooksey, I know you're hearing that, so if you can just see how you can go about tracking the length of time that it takes to respond in calls. Thanks, Mike. Okay. Yes, yes, Ms. Gleaton.
Another thing. Okay, my thing is they do still have schedules on the buses that also will help the people, provide them with different areas they're trying to get to, and the buses and stuff like. Don't they still have the schedules?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right.
Okay, thank you. All right, proceed, Mr. Cooksey.
All right, thank you. And duly noted, Mr. Green. As far as our maintenance, we've hit our target ever since I've been here and then prior to, as far as our preventive maintenance schedule when they're triggered. So again, 100% on target on that goal. So kudos to the maintenance department. Also in reference to our total miles between road calls, we had an improvement over November, so always glad to see that. That number as high as possible. So again, the maintenance department doing a great job. And might I add, I mean, when I say doing a great job, not to minimize it, but you know, we're just like many of our agencies, you know, are challenged with the supply chain and getting parts. You know, it hasn't missed us. But you know, through the parts management and the leadership team there, you know, constantly, you know, watching that particular area, making the adjustments that they need to make to keep us on the road safely. You know, again, kudos to them as we continue to, you know, watch these supply chain issues. You know, as they hopefully we'll get a break and things will loosen up here in the near to mid future. But right now, that's something that we do watch closely, and it's taken into account when we're, you know, doing the different things we need to do as far as servicing our vehicles. As far as the different campaigns that are going on, there is a recent campaign, and I can just highlight it a bit. It's where the Comet was granted funds to purchase two Flyer, Excelsior Flyer electric battery buses and two hydrogen fueling cell buses, including the infrastructure. So this particular product, those particular buses will replace 4 other buses that'll reach their useful life, end of life, by 2023. This is a longer term project. I only mentioned it here as you'll start to hear more and more about this project as things kind of get ramped up on it. I believe there was really only one meeting. I think Mr. DeChamps was part of that meeting that kind of gave an overview of what that would look like. And again, as things roll out on it, more about it, more things will come to light on that. But I just kind of wanted to highlight that, you know, what the future will look like by next year as far as these 2 different alternative vehicles that'll be here in service, in revenue service. Going to our, I'm sorry, did I hear the question? No. I thought I heard something. Going to our on-time performance, in both December, fixed and para slightly down. Currently have the on-time performance project is still underway, and I think I see Mr. Hubble on, and he can feel free to chime in if he'd like. But that project is well underway. So in the future, you know, we'll be able to report obviously much better numbers than this. A tremendous amount of work has gone into looking at the issues and adjusting them and working through all the different nuances that have been uncovered. It's quite a few. So I can report back from my vantage point that is off and running well as far as the discovery piece of it. And Mr. Hubble, I see you on. I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to chime in on that, or you're good for right now.
Yeah, Lenny, thank you. Just real briefly, Ms. Mood and fellow committee members, yes, we continue to meet weekly. As a matter of fact, we just met this morning, and we are moving ahead on now solutions and have completed a runtime analysis of each of the specific runs, and will be moving to implement those sometime between late March and early May as we finalize the run cuts, coordinating the public timetables and the various time points. And we're finding, you know, as we peeled back, as I described it, peeled back the proverbial layers of the onion over the last 8 to 10 months, we found many little nuances and system adjustments that need to get made, and we are in the process of finalizing those adjustments now in collaboration with the Comet and RATP dev team.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hubble.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions the committee might have for Mr. Cooksey or Mr. Hubble? Okay, you go ahead and proceed.
Yes, absolutely. So on the next couple of slides, or as you see, they're really just kind of focusing on taking a look at our ridership, kind of our comparisons, which, we have been reporting at least the better part of this year or the entire year of, our ridership being less than previous. So if you look at 20 versus 21, down 43%, some of that, the extreme of that may be driven as well, because I think that's when things were really starting to crank up in reference to our new variant. So, we do probably, feel the impact of that, maybe even more so, had it not reared itself at this time. Then if we do a previous month comparison, down 18% as well. Some of that may be related to our USC because, limited, less service with school for December versus November, and all the things that are going on in reference to our variant, and people still, not 100% sure on their ridership, or they've made other avenues that just hadn't recaptured so on our ridership. So again, reporting that, and then of course you have your daily ridership, which kind of gives you a chance to kind of compare apples to apples and look down through that. So in a nutshell, we know we're down in our ridership. The magic question is, when will we see that turn? Prior to the Omicron variant, my thought was, okay, I was thinking we were going to see March, start to feel something. But we have a new wrinkle in it right now, which is what we're dealing with now. So we'll obviously keep watching that and trying to be creative on ways to build ridership. So, and I think, the perception, well, not the perception, the one that we're, like I mentioned earlier, we're treating people well, but that our buses are clean and safe, and that our schedule adherence, that we're on time, that'll go a long way in winning some confidence back, to the public, that we're doing what we have to do to keep you safe, on a common bus, and that's my take on that. So, in which we are. As far as our top 6 passenger boardings, not really ever much change in that. I changed the slide up a little bit, just to kind of make it look a little bit different. But those numbers are pretty consistent across the board. We know those are our heaviest riderships. Again, I mentioned our Gamecock ridership. We saw a decrease compared to the previous month of 84%. And of course, our reduction, we had no service the 24th and 25th. We were running reduced service the 14th through the 23rd, and the 26th through the 31st. So there's substantial changes, but that's not uncommon. I mean, that's what we usually would face in December for that. Something, yes.
Mr. Fergus.
Yes, Mr. Cooksey.
Yes.
While we are adding USC passengers into the regular transit, why aren't we showing that as a separate figure? Aren't we charging them separate?
Well, we do have it is defined here separately. Like, for example, if I'm understanding that correctly, I do have it separated out on this particular slide. We just added the number in just so everyone can kind of see what that service, what it looked like and what it was doing.
Well, and if I let me see if I can clarify. Our contract with the university is for certain routes, and those are the ones that we are listed in the university part of this report. But none of those routes are limited to only having university students or staff ride. And so we can have any citizen can be riding on those routes, and we don't want to lose, and that also counts toward our ridership for all of our funding sources. So we don't want to lose that simply because the cost of those contracted routes are paid from a different source.
My question is, we're showing a 43% decrease in ridership, and we're comparing that to free ridership. So something's wrong with those figures. You mean less people paying, and we had an increase of free ridership. We did that for a year, free ridership. So now we're saying we're 43% down because we are paying passengers plus added in USC. So something's wrong with those figures.
You know, I have to confess to you that I'm not actually getting exactly what you're getting. Can we have a conversation with that about that after the meeting so I make sure I understand what your question is? Right. Would you? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Because I want to get what your concern is, and I'm really not getting it at the moment. So I'll follow up with you.
Concentrate on, we aren't out of the free mode. We did all of last year free. So we're comparing paid data to free ridership. Plus now we've added USC, and when we combine those figures, we still showing a 43% drop. That's almost impossible. Not unless something major happen in the city. And I live here, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, and I think what I wanted to try to tease out is the fact that the numbers that we're looking at here today are just bodies on the bus, regardless of who pays and who doesn't pay and what the source of that payment is. And so what we're counting here and what we're looking at is just simply total numbers of people who board the bus. And so I really am very willing for us to try to sort through the questions that you're raising, but I think that kind of goes beyond what is represented in this data, which just counts how many people have boarded the buses.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Ms. Moore, I have a question on the same thing Mr. Ferguson said. Okay, I thought when you get on the bus, isn't that thing supposed to count you as you get on that bus? That machine that they have there, people that are paying and everything?
The fare box.
It's supposed to give a number?
Yes. There's still
right. And for people who and of course, well, Ms. Beaton, you're the expert on this, but for people who get on and actually pay a fare at the fare box, or show some form of ID which shows that they don't pay a fare, but it still counts them. Isn't that right, Mr. Cooksey?
Yes.
Right.
Right. So I think what we're trying to that's why I'm thinking we're going to have a smaller, more in-depth kind of teasing out what the questions and the answers are that you and Mr. Fergus are seeking, because to see what the implications are for ridership, either decline or growth. But I'll just say again, the what happens at the fare box is that people get counted who get on the bus, whether they pay in money or they have a ticket, a pass, or they have a student ID, or they have something. But that's what I will need for us to look at in more detail.
Right.
Leo, this is Jackie. What he was saying is because of the holidays, we ran reduced service.
Yes.
Instead of running weekday service, we run the weekend service. So that too had an impact on ridership.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And because USC routes, there are like, I think 3 USC routes that are on reduced service during the holidays. They have a total of 20 routes. Is it 20 routes? 12 routes. 12 routes, and 3 of those routes are on reduced service because of the holidays.
I see. So, okay.
And also we're closed on Christmas Day.
All right. Right. So we have to take into account the decline, the proportion of that decline that's accounted for by our in reduced service routes.
Right.
Right. Right.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Jackie.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
Continue, okay. Also, we included starting, it actually started last month, is our DART ridership report, and we're going to continue to kind of fine tune this report where we can kind of take a look at some year-to-date numbers that kind of see the trends on this particular report. But it just wanted to highlight, showing you the number of trips requested, our cancellation rate or no-shows, same-day cancellations, just to kind of give you an idea of what's happening, a little bit deeper look inside of what's happening on the paratransit side. And again, we'll continue to work through this report and how to present it so we can get a global view to see how we're trending out, especially on our riderships and our cancellation rates and reported number of trips. So, but this is just an introduction. It was Mr. Franklin's idea and thought that we started including in December and going forward, and we'll continue to work this through to bring in more paratransit data into this report as we move forward.
Well, and I really appreciate your bringing up those things that we have not been looking at, because I expect that that Mr. Franklin and you are focusing on trying to reduce the no-shows and cancels at the door in particular, because that means that we've sent a bus to pick somebody up and then the ride doesn't happen. And so that those would be areas that I appreciate your attention to that.
Yes. And moving on into our safety area, like I mentioned earlier, we were up in reference to our safety complaints. But we only had one preventable accident for the month of December, which is no accident. Obviously, our goal is zero. But we continue to monitor our safety meetings, monthly meetings, and our announcements, and everything that we can do on the safety end, because we know how vital that is to keep customers safe, equipment safe, and then our operators as well. So that's always going to be top of mind on our safety performance. And what I did this time as well, I added in a safety driver of excellence, because we have an individual named Phyllis Jamison that we really recognize. This person has had no accidents, no incidents. We have a system on our buses that it's a system that triggers, if you like, for example, if you brake too hard or you make a left turn, or abrasively, or it triggers, anything can happen while you're behind the wheel of the bus. But this particular driver is all what we call their clips. They're little clips where the camera will come on and record just a few seconds of it. And then what happens is, once you get those clips, you bring the operator in, you kind of coach them on what you saw. Hey, you could have done this better, you could have done that better, or what were you seeing when you did this? Well, this particular operator has had like no clips of the camera system. Again, no accidents, no incidents. And I just wanted to bring that to highlight because that's a great job. And we want to do more to make sure that we're on our end promoting safe driving habits and excellence in that area. That's all part of the holistic approach of us saying, hey, you know what, we can get better. We need to make sure we're recognizing those who are doing the right thing. So this is the type of individual that takes the next step. I mean, this is your future, potential supervisor. This is your person that could be your future, what we call behind the wheel trainer that trains someone else. I mean, this person could be your potential safety manager going down the line, once you've identified these habits. So we want to make sure when we got somebody like this, and there's many, that we continue to coach and work with them, because those are the ones that are going to help us coach and teach other people how to do the right thing. So I added that into the mix for this month, and going forward, we have someone that rises to that occasion. The all-important human resource piece is very vital to why I believe we have managed to stay ahead of the curve. I had 3 organizations over the holidays call and ask, how are you guys fully staffed for operators? We're missing, we're missing, one agency said they were down 40 operators, another were 15 and 10. And they're asking, how do you do that? And so it's really our recruiting efforts have been very aggressive. We have an excellent recruiter here on our human resources that knows how to talk to people. She's from Columbia, she's from the area. She knows the community, and I think the key part is knowing your community. And she's involved in community outreach and engagement on her end. So when she goes out into the public, she's always promoting the comment, and she's promoting the different benefits. Why wouldn't you want to come here and work? And through those efforts over the last 5 or 6 months, it's managed for us to be one of a few agencies, I would dare say nationwide, that are staffed with bus operators. And that has helped us through Omicron, because if we were where you were 6 months ago and I'm at 10% positive rate, again, we'd be having a different conversation right now. But all of these things collectively come into place. I just wanted to kind of highlight the staffing and recruiting, and that's something that we definitely don't lose sight of. And we currently have, I think she has here 6 operators that are currently in training, in the training process, that are seasoned. They're coming from other, what I call good jobs, to come here to be with us. And that's important too. They're not leaving a situation that none of them I heard say, I hated it there, it was the worst place. They're coming because I heard about what you're doing. I'm seeing it, and I'm talking to other drivers who are working here, who are also enjoying what they do. And I want to come and be a part of that. And that's what we want to keep going, because offer jobs, to the community, good jobs. This is a great job with great benefits. And that's what we promote here, at the Common. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that. That's very important.
Thank you.
And I see some, okay. And just to kind of round this out, again, it was a overall a good month on our maintenance end, our customer service goals. We met them. Only 1 preventable. We know the issues with our OTP, and that you heard from Mr. Hubble. We're moving in that right direction. So overall, December was a good month, and I'm looking forward to January and the months coming forward to also be good months as we work to be the very best that we can be. And that completes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooksey. I appreciate that. We kept you on board on stage a long time today, and I apologize.
Oh, it's okay.
But I think it helps us to when we have some discussion, and I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move from there to Eric Harris and the ridership analysis. And I know the committee's aware that the kind of detailed route analysis that Eric looks at is like a month and 2 months behind the overall numbers that Mr. Cooksey's given us. So Eric, you want to give us any insight into that?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mood. First off, I want to say Happy New Year's to the service committee. I have sorry about that. I feel that it's necessary for us to discuss trends within the last 3 months. We didn't meet in December, so just kind of giving you a little bit more of an insight there. But as for now, our corridor routes are pretty steady. And those are 3-digit routes, the North Main, Farrow Road, Devon, Two Notch, Forest Drive, Broad River, those areas, they're pretty steady. But as far as our local routes, all of them are pretty steady as well. But Route 88 only carried 503 passengers in November, which is the lowest number of passengers since just looking from January 2021 to date. So there, there's a few questions there. The first step in my analysis was to evaluate travel patterns. Are people typically going to work? Are they choice riders, captive riders, or even riders that are trying to get to key destinations like community fairs or something along those lines? But what I found is that ridership consistently dips in November. As a whole, we experienced the same trend in 2021. Cities much larger than ours, like New York, MTA, they're seeing the same consistencies as well. So the trend, I guess as we start to move closer, we'll pay close attention to it. But ridership has been, up and down at best around that time period, especially moving into that holiday season. As far as the remaining routes, U of SC is down, considering the end of semester travel patterns. They're starting to shift a little bit, and just looking at them as a separate entity, but just as a whole, we do understand as you get closer to those finals, we start to see less people utilize transit services back and forth, and starting to shift in the days that they actually use them as well. And we did see a slight drop in DART service. We're averaging about 5,100 passengers over the last 3 months. But for the month of November, we were at 4,800, which is slightly below, but nothing to really panic about as of right now. But that pretty much concludes my report from a high level. But I do have the data right now in my possession if I need to answer any further question in any greater length of detail.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Does anyone have a question for Eric?
Yeah, I do, Miss Mood. This Carolyn Glee.
Yes.
12 over here. It's always pretty good. When I'm getting on there, I notice the ridership is pretty good. 12 over here on Bonneville Road and Two Notch Road over to the Colony.
Route 12.
Yes.
One. Yes, for Route 12, they're pretty steady. They're slightly down the ridership.
Don't mess with it.
They're slightly down by 5%, but that's nothing to really fret about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So if no further questions for Eric, our next item is 5D, and that's the soda cap analysis that was requested. And is Blake going to do that report?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. With the recent decision by the board with soda cap, I wanted to just kind of break through the data of all soda cap routes, looking at historical trends over the past 3 years, and looking at recommendations about how to move forward with ridership. My report can be found on pages 54 to 57 with more detailed analysis for your viewing. But just diving in, I kind of want to highlight soda cap 1 and 4 for our historical trends for total. For fiscal year 2021, soda cap 1 had 21,252, while 4 had 10,080. That's a slight decrease from fiscal year 2020, with soda cap 1 at 34,147 and 4 at 35,559. Looking at the overall ridership trends, of course, all these routes. Yes.
Blake, I'm sorry. Could you answer one question? Which one is the soda cap 1 and which one is the soda cap 4? Which one is the one that was going into West Columbia?
Yeah, I got you. So just for on the same page, soda cap 1 is our one that goes into West Columbia across the river.
1.
2 is our
Thank you.
That's 1. 2 is our 5-point shuttle, but that's currently suspended. 3 is our game day shuttle for the Fireflies, and 4 is the orbit around downtown. Looking at the efficiency and the ridership trends, of course, COVID has had an impact on soda cap with every other route. But the ridership for soda cap 1 and 4 isn't terrible. I mean, it's as high as we would like, but it's definitely higher than other routes out there, such as 2257L and our rural express routes. Looking at our efficiency for these soda cap routes as of July 2020, which is the latest report I have, soda cap 1 actually ranks in at 8th overall as our one of the most efficient routes. 2 and 4 were behind at 15 and 21st. But soda cap 1 does have strong ridership to warrant keeping that around. But with the decision with the board and looking at the trends, I've made some recommendations and some ideas going forward. So soda cap 3 does have merit for termination, I would say, just with the low ridership. of that route and getting passengers to and from Steger Park. Soda Cap 1 and 4, though, have lower ridership than our average route, but they're not the lowest routes in the system, such as I said earlier with 22, B7L, such as other routes. Soda Cap 2 did show strong ridership pre-pandemic, but due to its suspension, recent metrics are unavailable. I know personally I've been approached in student government about resuming Soda Cap 2 as the university has suspended some of their operations with their shuttles at 5 Points, and students have expressed difficulties getting to and from campus from the 5 Points district. But just going into attracting ridership and seeing what we can do about possibly rebooting of the program and increasing ridership, I believe if we engage our community leaders, our businesses, our apartment complexes along the routes, we can definitely attain more riders. I will say with Soda Cap 1, I had discussions in the summer with the 9 apartment complex. They do not currently have a shuttle to get students to and from campus, so their students are solely relying on Soda Cap 1 to get to campus, which could explain the ridership increase during the school year and decrease during the winter and summer months. Additionally, more conversations with businesses along the route and more apartment complexes, so such as our Vista businesses, Parkland Plaza, Brickworks, all of our apartment complexes along the route. And I would say that the need for connectivity has been expressed for our Soda Cap 2 route. Allen and Benedict students actually, they consistently rank in the top 3 for blue bike ridership, which shows the need for connectivity to the downtown core, as well as our University of South Carolina students expressing connectivity issues to and from 5 Points as well. But one other idea that I had kind of drafted is marketing our park and rides to students and to choice riders. I know firsthand, being a student at the university, parking is very expensive. So I think a lot of students don't know about our park and rides along the route. I think a lot of students would be really interested in hearing just paying $2 or paying for a weekly or monthly pass. It would be a lot cheaper for them to ride Soda Cap than it would be purchasing a parking pass, which would greatly increase our ridership in those areas. And the third idea I kind of had was just allowing for more. We already have our Soda Cap vouchers that we have for the visitor center, but expanding that program out to more businesses for safe and efficient travel, such as vouchers could be available in 5 Points for safe, affordable, and efficient travel back to campus and to the city core. The vouchers could also be available for hotels, visitor centers, other tourist-minded points of interest, just to get people to test out the service and get home safe and get back to the core. But like I mentioned earlier, all of this has in detail with graphs and statistics on pages 54, 57, and I will open the floor to questions. So we got one from Mr. Burgess.
Okay. All right, Mr. Burgess, I see your hand.
Yes, I would like to just introduce the motion that I introduced at the board, was to suspend the Soda Cap services until the spring and notify the public that we are suspending until we revamp it. Hadn't been a change. We've passed this ball back and forth. It's like the board or the committee can't figure out what each other is doing.
Okay, and what we are, I mean, the reason this is on our agenda was that motion that was made at the board, and the board gave it to us, gave it to the service committee to look at how we would address that. Now, what I'm hearing in Blake's report, and Blake, you tell me if I'm wrong, is that the Soda Cap 1 route is number 8. It's not one of our lowest producing routes, and there's some ridership that's only reached by this route. So so the Soda Cap 2 has been suspended, so we don't really address that. The 3 is just the shuttle to the ball games, so that's a different quality. And it seemed to me, Mr. Burgess, that one of the concerns that drove your motion was the 4, the orbiter. And so what I'm hearing in Blake's recommendations to the
Don't
committee is
forget, my
that,
complaint was #1, used to stop at Hardin and Taylor,
That's two.
and that stopped. So I don't know where these numbers from Allen and Benedict are coming.
so Blake, can you clarify that? Is that been a change in the route, a change in stops?
Number two.
For Soda Cap 1,
Yes.
Soda Cap 1, the geometry has been about the same as far as I've been here in the past few years, going down Main Street into West Columbia. I know there was a change in Soda Cap 4 to go to SC Works. But for the most part, the route geometries have remained the same for the past few years.
So which soda cap, which route was it that went to the stop that Mr. Fergus is referring to at Allen and Benedict?
That would be Soda Cap 2.
Soda Cap 2,
Yes.
which is currently, the whole route is suspended.
Yes.
Okay.
So looking at
and
two-
Mr. Fergus's motion was to suspend, but that one is suspended.
Yes.
Okay.
You
And
know,
so
Madam
and so
Chair,
the
let me,
4 does not provide service to that area, 4?
No, 4 is just bordered by Sumter and Assembly Streets, and it's just an orbit around downtown.
Just doesn't get any closer than Sumter.
No.
Madam Chair, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Mr. Fergus.
Now, I've gone back and forth with this soda cap connector for the past 5 or 6 months. And it seems to be that coming from the board, we just need to notify the public that we're going to suspend until it's revamped. Now, is everybody asked you about these empty buses running all through town? And I'm seeing this myself. You know, we had a 1 and 2. We started with bus 1 and 2 that went down Gervais, and one went down Taylor, turned on Barnwell. And then for some reason, our previous ED changed all of them where nobody knew where any of them went. So now we got empty buses running all the way down, all over town, and we aren't justifying them for the reason they were established. See,
All right. So what I'm hearing is, in the follow up to your concern, and that was expressed in that motion, that's why Blake did the analysis that we've just gotten, which, and I'll just tell you what I'm hearing from what he said is that the Soda Cap 1 is providing a viable service that has potential for growth, and he's outlined some steps which for me would fall into the category of revamping, but except he's not saying stop the service while we do this. I hear him saying this is a service people depend on, and we can do things to increase the ridership on that. Now, I'm talking about just the Soda Cap 1.
Madam Chair, nobody
Yes.
should be depending on the soda cap connector for transportation, because that was established for commercial and tourism. So if you're depending on the service cap connector for service, you're depending on the wrong, that wasn't what it was established for. So it's lost its mission right with what's being said.
Well, and I would just say that a little bit differently, and that is that even though that may have been the intent, that people have found this a vehicle and routes that get them to places they need to go, and they're using them. So whether the answer is to say, well, maybe this ought not be named that, if that name of that service implies something different, but I don't want to give up the service for the sake of a name.
We left the board with it being suspended until we were going to revamp it and do it right. Now we're saying we're going to talk about it and pass it back and forth for how many more months?
Well,
The public start complaining about it, because I'm hearing that already. It's empty, 4 empty buses were riding through town all day, every day with no riders. Even the bus drivers know they don't have riders. So if somebody's depending on it, where's that revenue? Let's identify that revenue if somebody's depending on Soda Cap Connector for transportation in the city of Columbia. Maybe Pam can input something into this.
Yes, so Mr. Fergus, Blake and I actually met and talked through some of those ideas that we had. What I would need to move forward with the board's recommendation is to know what is the date that the service stops, and make sure that operations is aware of that, so that I can notify the public.
Well, I feel like I have to step in here, because my understanding is that, I mean, we've never as a board had something that said in a board meeting, we're making a decision at this point in time to stop a service without any kind of work on that at the committee level. And so that's why it came back to us, because because my understanding of the board's action was not to say we make a motion at the board and at that moment we stop service. I think that's not how our system operates, because we're not doing a service to our riders if we operate that way, if we can just start and stop at any point in time. And so it came back to us. And so then what we've gotten here is recommendations, an analysis and recommendations from the staff of things to grow further a service that people are already depending on in Soda Cap 1. Now, if it's troublesome that this be a part of what was initially thought, as Mr. Fergus pointed out, a way to enhance circulation of visitors and business people in the central district, then I think we may want to say, really, this needs a different kind of route designation in our system. It may not need to be named Soda Cap 1, but let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. You know, let's not throw out.
All I can say, if we're gonna have a Soda Cap Connector and it's not serving the community, it should be eliminated. It's empty buses, and and 98% of the riders and taxpayers don't have the service in the area that they live. It took 2 years to put a stop at Hardin and Taylor, and that was eliminated without any board member knowing about it, because it wasn't done at the service. It's still not there, and you're asking a community to support something that received no service from it.
Well, what I'd like for us to do is table any action on this, but until we can look at 2 things that I'm hearing of concerns of yours, Mr. Fergus. One is whether the Soda Cap concept needs to be redesignated so that it makes a distinction between what has become a regular route, but is named a Soda Cap route. And the other piece of that is your concern about, is there not adequate service to that, the area that you're talking about, because isn't that where our super stop is? So aren't there other routes servicing the area that you're describing?
Our illustrious ED put 2 shelters on both sides of the street, and only 2 buses go down that street. So I don't know, it was supposed to be a streetscape, but you know, John Ando almost did everything he wanted to do in Columbia without he's gone, so I'll leave it like that. But that Soda Cap Connector needs to be withdrawn, because it had a good concept, and we moved that away from the concept. It was tourist and commercial. Now we're trying. it's a bus riders for bus riders. It was for tourists.
Well,
And
may I make I think we're kind of at an impasse here. And what I would like to see happen is that we have a workable way to deal with these details. And with Mr. Fergus, could you and I and any other committee members who are interested in digging into this make arrangements to have a work session with both Eric and Blake and with
I think
the Rap Dev folks and with
Madam
Pam.
Chair, it just needs
Yeah.
to go to the board and the board make a decision. Then I don't waste any more time with it.
Well, I'm
It's a lot of
really,
time
as the
being
chair of the
wasted.
committee, I'm really not ready to take back to a board something that is not as well defined as I think we need to be to make a proposal to the board, because just dumping it back on them doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like to me I've done my job if we do that. So so if the committee is willing to delay an action on the proposed soda cap extension until we can have a work session, I would entertain that motion.
And if I could just chime in real quick about just soda cap 1 and 2 specifically, Mr. Fergus, with suspension of soda cap, I can see suspension of soda cap 3 and 4, because 4 is duplicate service and can be replicated with bike share or quick mobility with walking or other services. And soda cap 3 does have low ridership to Sector Park. But soda cap 1 is a crucial connector across the river, especially to 96L, as well as to grocery stores in the area and with members who can access campus otherwise. And soda cap 2, I know I've had a lot of conversations with student government at USC about soda cap 2, not only from USC students with 5 points, but also the connectivity with Allen and Benedict. Allen and Benedict students and their SGA association have been discussions with our SGA association about feeling disconnected from 5 points and the greater Columbia core, which I think is a case for them using Blue Bike so much. It would be a signal for return to soda cap 2 for that area. So if it was up to me, I would say soda cap 1 and 2 have really strong ridership and connectivity. If anything, 3 and 4, but I'd be hesitant to get rid of 1 and 2.
Mr. Fergus, could we?
Chairman,
Yes.
oh, I'm sorry. Can I add another wrinkle in here?
Yes.
Talking about this. I think one of the things with the soda cap connector, the reason that it was built as hospitality or for tourism is that there are city monies that can be spent from the hospitality tax on that,
Right.
rather than coming from the general fund. And so that opens up a different revenue stream to the Comet for some of this. And especially
we never got any of that revenue, so that has never come up at the Comet hospitality funds. So if it is,
the hospitality funds, West Columbia funded it from the hospitality funds because it was built as a hospitality, it was built as a tourism thing. Yeah. And the hospitality funds can only be spent on certain items of tourism related items. And that was I think that was one of the reasons and what happens is especially I think did you say, Blake, it's Route 1 that connects to West Columbia?
Yes, that's correct.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yes, that was yes.
Oh, okay. And I think I'm hearing Blake say that is like number 8 on the overall ridership of the whole Comet system. Is that correct?
Not for ridership, but for efficiency with boardings.
Oh, efficiency with boarding.
See, my thing, and we've gotten away from it, was to suspend it until the 2 routes are done right, rather than being embarrassed and being asked about empty buses running all the way through town. I live in the Edgewood community, and I've never seen a soda cap connector in that community in several years. So I don't know where this bus that's going by Allen and Benedict is, because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, the Soda Cap 2 has been suspended for the past 2 years now.
And that didn't come from the service committee. So I don't know.
That suspension went through the process of both the committee and the board, because we can't just stop services without doing that.
Did a lot of things that we say we couldn't do that were done on their own, because it took 2 years of fighting to even get them to stop at Hardin and Taylor. I'm quite sure you remember that fight. Now, to say you have board members that fought for a stop to have something suspended and the board members don't complain about it, something's wrong with that. That's the only reach this Soda Cap connector had into the community, was one stop at Hardin and Taylor.
All right, so here's where I see us at this moment with the recommendations that we've gotten from Blake. And that is that we can take back to the board to say, given the analysis that the route, the Soda Cap connectors 3 and 4, we might want to recommend suspension. But I'm listening to what Mike is saying too, and that is, unless the hospitality funding considers that of value enough to want those buses to continue. I mean, we're not doing this in isolation. We got a lot of tendrils and connections to the community that I don't think we can.
What community are you talking about?
I'm talking about our whole service area. Our whole service area, the entire service area.
That's not true. Absolutely not true. That's why I say
Well,
this
if somewhere along the way, the people who control the hospitality funds decided it was worth investing in a service, in the bus service, then I think, we can't do something without a conversation with them about that. And also the same thing that I've said before is that the buses, like the Soda Cap 1, we can't just cut off service to people who are depending on it, because it has a name that doesn't seem to fit at this point. And then the whole question about Soda Cap 2, which I think is addressing part of your concern, is that was part of the service to the area that you're concerned about, and whether we need to re-examine how that needs to be reconfigured. But I don't see any benefit at all to saying stop service while we think about this. I say we've got to learn to walk and chew gum at the same time. We've got to learn how do we keep things going while we are improving them.
Madam Chair, if I can interject quickly, one of the things that is a possible solution to this is to allow the service committee and the board to allow marketing and planning to form a work group to find out what type of Soda Cap service is viable for everyone, one that reaches into the HBCUs and the historically Black colleges community, one that serves the students at USC, one that services the business districts like West Columbia and Casey. And it might not be 2 big buses rolling around all the time. It may be a hybrid that may have to be a sort of reflex route, or what do you call that mini transit, Eric? What's that called?
Micro transit.
Or it might be a micro transit where there's a component that part of it is on demand and you use smaller vehicles. That might be what it may look like. And then that way people are served, and we know that we're serving the people who want the service. Now, from marketing standpoint especially, we want to really engage in those business districts, because we had not done that at the point where Soda Cap was basically sprung on the. So we want to go back and do our due diligence and make sure that there is buy-in and go to the hotels and say, hey, why don't you buy a certain number of passes for Soda Cap and hand it out to the people who stay at your hotel? Maybe that means going to the restaurants, things available, you know, different passes, or have them buy into a pass program where they can offer passes on Soda Cap. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at and working with the tourism industry in the city.
Oh, thank you, Pam. And Eric, you had your hand up also?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like, I was literally going to echo exactly what Pam was saying. We've had several conversations. I think it's probably time for us to be able to sit down and kind of structure what marketing will look like for the Soda Cap services. We are suffering from many different components, like from many different vanishing points, considering a lot of people are working from home, and we know that the Soda Cap connector is connected primarily to the downtown area, trying to get people to and from throughout that corridor. So it's a lot of factors that play a role into that. So having that planning session may be really, really helpful. And plus there's an agreement more so in place with Soda Cap 3, the game day service. And so just trying to get attendance back, at the stadium. And so it's a lot of things that we got to think through. So I definitely, if I had a recommendation, I want to make sure that we can kind of think through it all the way, and also bring up that we have Reimagine a Comment that's also sorting through some of these plans and the ridership data that we have. We're just waiting for Jared Walker and Associates to provide the final recommendation, or at least the draft recommendations, in order for the service committee and the board to vet it out, and then we can go into public meetings and things of that nature. So,
and we're to get those recommendations from the Reimagine the Comment. The date is
we were hoping to have it in the month of January, but I know it's going to be anytime between now and February.
But it's imminent. It's imminent. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Let me hear from Walter, and then I'll have something else to say. Walter.
Thanks. I just wanted to say a couple of things. One, because I was the original idea for the Soda Cap. I really think that the number 2 needs to be reinstated because of the movement down Hardin Street to 5 Points to free up number 1 so it doesn't have to go necessarily into 5 Points, to go down Taylor Street to pick up the job service thing. I'd like to see number 2 reinstated. I don't necessarily see a need for number 4, although I know the Art Museum was Mass General was real keen on having transportation down Main Street. If the ridership's not there, maybe we need to revisit that. It's extremely important to me to get tourists down to the State Museum and to Adventure, to the Convention Center, the CLA, all of that stuff, which was really what the original design for number 1 was. I see if there is if there are riders that need that from a USC standpoint, I don't care if it's tourists. I don't care if it's business people. Rider is a rider as far as I'm concerned. So it's very important for a bus to go across the bridge into West Columbia for a whole variety of reasons. But I'm just pleading to you guys, please don't cancel the Soda Cap. And please don't suspend the Soda Cap until you figure out a way, because right now I understand maybe you need smaller buses on those routes as opposed to the big buses, because people see the big buses and they don't see anybody, and they go, oh no, there's nobody riding. But all in all, I'm just saying, from a rider, from the Midlands Transit Riders Association, from me, and from anybody else that rides the bus, please don't do away with it. Thanks.
Okay, Walter, what I would like for us to do as a committee is to respect the request of planning and marketing for a work session to come up with a viable plan to present to the board regarding the soda cap service. And that was Miss Gleaton.
That was Miss Gleaton.
Yes,
All right, so Miss Gleaton, would you make that as a motion? Would you make that as a motion?
I make a motion that we come up with a plan so we can present it to the board and go from there.
All right, so we'd have, and it would, so I would ask, and I'll second that motion. Is any discussion of that? Because, and my discussion would be that we would ask marketing and planning to structure a work session that any of us can participate in, but that may draw in other people who need to be a part of the coming up with a viable plan for for the future of soda cap service. Does that capture the essence of what you wanted to see happen, Ms. Gleaton?
Yes.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right. Well, then, Juliet, would you call the roll on that motion?
Mr. Brennan? Mr. Fergus?
No.
Ms. Gleaton?
Yes.
Ms. Mood?
Yes.
I didn't hear Mr. Brennan, I'm sorry.
He didn't respond. He may have dropped off the call.
Okay, well.
And Mr. Ratio was absent.
She's absent,
So,
yes.
all right, so we have a vote of 2-1.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the 3 is still a quorum.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so that motion passes and we'll implement that action. And I would just say that, Mr. Fergus, this is in support of your concern, I believe, for us to take this deliberate and
This has nothing to do with my concern. That's what has happened has been your concern. So I have no interest in this at all. We've
Okay.
had this thing around for 6 months to revamp the soda cap connector. And for some reason, all of a sudden, now we're going to a planning stage. We didn't go to a planning stage to mess it up like it is now. It was done without input.
Well, I want us, my interest is that we do this well and that we do the right thing. And so we'll proceed with it, with the motion that has passed, and this will continue to be on our agenda until we get it completed. All right. That takes us to no 5E, an update regarding the suggestion to the board by MTRE to consider the Lake Murray Boulevard stop. Eric, is there anything new to report on that?
I do have a short report. I did speak with Mr. Walter Durst, and he's on the line back in November. I believe it was November 11th when we spoke, to be exact. But we did discuss some of the changes coming down the pipeline for Reimagine the Comment, and I did mention the possibilities of doing something with Jared Walker and Associates when we were going through the planning process with the City of Columbia and Richland County and other stakeholders. There are possibilities of us exploring that microtransit, I guess, style of service. We do have some vendors already in mind, and we worked with them over the course of this, I guess you could say, last year or so, but we just haven't rolled out a new service right now. We're just trying to prioritize on-time performance, and I guess you can look at the new super stop as a project as well, and also the intermodal facility. Just some of those things. We're just trying to coordinate plans a little better. But we did. I did inform Mr. Walter Durst that we'll keep him informed as some of the plans are starting to unravel.
And so I'm hearing that it's very possible that this particular request can be addressed as a part of the overall reimagining the comment.
potentially, it was in consideration during the planning process.
Okay, well, I think we'll just let it stay with that part of the process rather than, you know, it makes me real uncomfortable for us to have that overall planning process going on and to be doing other things around the edges on the side. So I'd like for us to keep that a part of that process if we can. Absolutely. All right, thank you, Eric. And that takes us to item 6, and I'm looking at this and I'm not sure that we have anything else. We talked about the update on the COVID during Mr. Cooksey's report. That would be 6A. Is there anything that we didn't cover on that update that needs to come up under 6A? All right, hearing none, I'll move to 6B. And I know that Pam, you have a report on the numbers of vaccinations.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any comment you want to make on that?
Yes, just briefly. I do want to commend Mr. Cooksey and his team on the vaccines adoption, especially with the bus operators and keeping vehicles on the road, and also Ms. Coney on her recruitment efforts. At the conference I'm here in Washington, we are actually at the forefront of many transit agencies with a percentage of over 85% of our drivers being vaccinated. So that is a great thing, and we've been noted for that. I do want to also, call your attention to, since the Don't Miss Your Shot campaign's inception in February of last year, we have touched more than 10,000 people with rides to vaccines themselves, and with testing directly from the Comet. And I think that's a huge milestone that we've reached. And that's not even counting fixed routes, the free fixed route rides that we gave to the COVID vaccine. So that number is even more than that, but the number that we can directly attribute and really have data on has reached over 10,000 people.
That's a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. And
that really is very excellent.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I want to also recognize Mr. Fergus. Mr. Fergus gave me a heads up that there was a line down at Comet Central of people getting their tests and their vaccines. And I was able to connect to WLTX, who did a story on that this past Friday.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Fergus, for passing that along, calling that to Pam's attention. Okay, with that, I will just say, I want to apologize to all of you for the length of this meeting, and I hope this won't be a habit. But we covered a lot of ground, and we had missed a meeting and meeting time, and so maybe that accounts for it. I hope, but unless there's anything else, the only other item on our agenda is to adjourn. To have a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Ms. Gleaton, a second. I'll second that. Thank you. All in favor, we'll just take a voice vote on that. All in favor say aye. Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.